Please welcome the President and CEO of the National Marine Sanctuary Foundation, Joel R. Johnson.
Hello. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Capitol Hill Ocean Week. It is such a pleasure to have you all with us here in the audience at the Ronald Reagan Building in Washington, D.C., and also online with us virtually, tuning in to a fabulous week of discussion, conversations, inspiration, and provocative questions and challenges about how we are going to define our relationship with the ocean, the Great Lakes, our waterways, as we celebrate the nation's 250th anniversary and look forward to the next 250 years. We are in day 2 of CHOW. We had a fabulous day yesterday. We heard incredible stories about the resilience of our marine heritage and our waterways. We heard incredible, inspiring remarks with practical tips, practical strategies about how to do our collective work. And as you know, this today and with this CHOW, our focus on voyages and breakthroughs has allowed us to shine a light on maritime heritage. And I hope you've heard this message that maritime heritage is really our shared history. It is really not just shipwrecks at the bottom of the water, but also our ecological and cultural heritage. So let me start this morning by also saying a couple of thank yous, because this work could not be done without a lot of partners. We were fortunate to work with Kathy Green and the National Maritime Historical Society on putting together the programming for this year's CHOW. And it's been a fantastic collaboration so far. So thank you, Kathy, for your partnership. I also want to thank our CHOW Advisory Committee. Every year we ask volunteers, ocean leaders, activists, environmental advocates, marine scientists and archaeologists, policymakers, and leading community voices to join us to ensure that we are putting together a program that really reflects and matters to our ocean community. And I want to take a moment to share an important message that I heard yesterday. I heard the words that the ocean is a bridge. And I really believe that. I think our waters allow us to connect with each other, to bridge divides, and find common purpose. It is really hopeful to see that that purpose is also supported financially by partners like NOAA, who is an incredible sponsor of Capitol Hill Ocean Week and has been for the past 25 years. But I would also like to thank our returning partners, our presenting and advocate level sponsors, including Yamaha, the National Marine Manufacturers Association, the Henry Foundation, the Marine Mammal Commission, as well as Perkins Coie and the Ocean Conservancy, and many more sponsors, some of whom have booths in the exhibit hall outside that I encourage you to visit. I'd also like to give a special thanks to the National Wildlife Federation for sponsoring our sanctuary cinema. How many folks have caught a film in the cinema? Fantastic. I think it's a wonderful outgrowth and an evolution of CHOW that we've been able to tell the stories of local communities by bringing those into the conference. Okay, so obviously with our theme, Voyages and Breakthroughs, it's really important to point out that it's not all just about technology and innovation. It really also is about breakthroughs in spirit, breakthroughs in thinking, breakthroughs in perspective. And you're going to hear over the course of the day a number of panels that really now dive in to that notion. So a quick preview of the day. Restoring Heritage in Nature will explore breakthroughs in biocultural preservation, communities and ecosystems that are reconnecting in powerful ways that revive traditions and strengthen relationships between people and the waters they depend on. A little bit later, you'll hear a panel, Serving America's Waterfronts. I'm pretty excited about this session. It will feature a conversation with leaders highlighting strategies in policy, innovation, and workforce development to advance maritime heritage and strengthen opportunities for the next generation. During that session, we'll also have an opportunity to hear from keynote speaker and Ocean Award Lifetime Achievement honoree, Dr. Jim Delgado. Also, check out the session New Blue Revolution, sponsored by Yamaha and the National Marine Manufacturers Association. We'll dive deep into some of the technological breakthroughs and how communities are using them to explore our oceans, to support sustainable fisheries, and turn those discoveries into meaningful progress. So now I would like to begin with our opening keynote session this morning. We are very honored to have Nainoa Thompson with us. He's traveled a great many miles here, and I think he's going to share with you all some very important messages about his work. Explorer, environmentalist, master navigator, cultural revivalist, educator, and storyteller, Nainoa Thompson has led the global discovery and revival of the ancient Polynesian art of non-instrument wayfinding navigation. A CEO and co-founder of the Polynesian Voyaging Society and a navigator of the legendary Voyaging canoe Hukulea, he has inspired generations through journeys that connect culture, science, conservation, and humanity's relationship with the ocean. Through his voyaging, his teaching, and engagement with the public, Nainoa has opened a global, multi-generational dialogue on the importance of sustaining our ocean resources, protecting our heritage, and caring for our shared planet. For more than 4 decades, Nainoa has dedicated his life to exploring the ocean and advancing environmental stewardship, and inspired all of us, as well as ensuring that the traditions, the knowledge, and the cultural heritage of Polynesia across the entire region remain vibrant for future generations. Most recently, he has led an important voyage, the Moana Nuakea voyage, which is an ambitious 4-year, 43,000 nautical mile circumnavigation of the Pacific, designed to connect indigenous communities, local communities, advance ocean awareness, and really drive global awareness and stewardship of our waters. That voyage has already engaged communities across Alaska, the Pacific Northwest, California, and Hawaii, and will continue through Polynesia, Aotearoa, Asia, and the Americas, all the way through 2028. In 2024, under his leadership, Hukulea and Hikealalia launched statewide educational and training voyages across Hawaii, visiting communities and schools while preparing a new generation of captains, navigators, and ocean stewards to carry forward these incredible traditions of voyaging and caring for our planet. Please join me in welcoming Nainoa Thompson.
Aloha mai kako. My name is Nainoa Thompson. I'm from the Hawaiian Islands, in the center of the ocean we call Moana Nuakea. And I'm not a master navigator. And Joel was really very generous with the introduction, thank you, but I'm really a student, and I'm just gonna, if we're talking about voyages and breakthroughs of the voyaging, then what's most important is our teachers are in the room. So that's my job today. And we've had many voyages, about almost 275,000 nautical miles now over the last 50 years. And so I'll just give you an eye blink and just bring in 2 of our teachers. One's a navigator, one's a starman. And I'm here because to just impress upon you the importance of the National Marine Sanctuaries. Of the 22 sites we visited with our canoe on the worldwide voyage back in 2014 and 17 to 13 of the sites. And to impress upon you the importance of National Marine Sanctuaries to us, it's our school to help us figure out how do we get to a place where we can have impact in protecting the most important single environment in the world, the oceans. And so with that, I want to thank Joel Johnson for the privilege to be here, and maybe we'll get started. I know you have a very busy day, so I got way too many slides, and they'll just kick me off when the time's up. And I'll do my best. And Anyway, to go back, first slide, please. Yeah, it's about this, the island Earth, the only one we got. Next slide. Our story begins here. It begins on the first footprints in the Hawaiian Islands. Hawaiian Islands are the single so-called most isolated high island archipelago on the planet. We don't believe isolation is really a true word anymore. But the first people came here, we don't know. Probably sometime 1,000 to 2,000 years ago. And they lived here sustainably in our home, in our islands. They figured it out. They cracked the code about their relationship to nature. That's what we're trying to recapture back in our homeland now. The story is not all that kind. 200 years ago, there'd be another wave of voyages that would come and change everything for Native Hawaiians. For us, it's sad. It's a road to extinction. When it was 1 out of 37 would survive the diseases. The land's been taken away. It didn't have enough to be able to run pineapple and sugarcane fields, so we brought immigrants. We didn't have enough Hawaiians to do that. It just goes on. And 100 years ago, my father would be born. He's nearly pure Hawaiian, and he would be the first generation that he would be denied the education of his language, his native language, his culture, his traditions. And my grandparents, his parents were loving people. And my understanding was that if he was taught to be who he was, he would get hurt. And I know the story well because we had many times with my grandmother who talked about her uncle who would take the strong detergent and rub the brown off his skin. And the stories of being in school and where teachers had the permission to beat you if you spoke your first language, if you dance hula, if you practiced your culture. And it was authorized because in 1926, the public school system would outlaw Hawaiian language, it would outlaw culture, outlaw traditions. The black road of extinction was well paved. By the time I was born, I didn't know what that pavement was because I only knew what I was taught. And so we have enormous value in what our schools teach. And back in my K-12, 13 years of education in a good private school, there wasn't a single teacher, a single moment that mentioned a canoe. Not a single teacher that said, by the way, you're a part of the biggest country in the world called Polynesia. You're a part of a place that is 600 times more water than it is land, excluding Aotearoa, New Zealand. You are part of a family that is down there in a place called Kaikinui. Kaikinui means homeland. And we know that our homeland's in the area of French Polynesia. It's on the island. It's in the islands near Tahiti, a place called Raiatea, and a place called Tapu Tapu Atea, which is the powerful navigation schools. It was the center of Polynesian culture because that's where the explorers came from. But we didn't know anything, nothing when I graduated. And all I remember was the big concern, and when I graduated was enough food to feed humanity. Well, it was not an issue of the amount of food, it was an issue of distribution. And so because the oceans would feed humanity infinitely, and that black road of extinction was well paved to the point that we didn't even know enough to ask the right questions. How come? How come I can't be taught about who I am? How come nobody has any value of my identity as a descendant of the great navigators? We didn't know. And then the story changes. That black road was really close to that slippery cliff. When you fall off, you can't recover. It is called extinction of a beautiful culture, a language, and great explorers. Next slide. Okay. Sometimes voyages come from dreams. Dr. Ben Finney from San Diego and Santa Barbara was an anthropologist that researched the migration and the discovery of the Polynesian islands. And he came across some theories that he believed were wrong in terms of science and in terms of cultural information. One was Kon-Tiki, 1947, drifted from the Americas, crash landed on an island called Barauia, 101 days at sea. And he disputed that because the belief was the Polynesians didn't know how to sail. So they couldn't go upwind against the trade winds from the following the language, the Austronesian language. They had to come from someplace else, downwind, from Peru or Chile. And then there was another anthropologist, he was well known, Andrew Sharp from New Zealand, said, no, they had canoes, it's very clear, but they did not have the intelligence to navigate more than 100 miles. So how do you account for Hawaii's discovery being 2,300 miles away? How do you account for that? And so the theory was that they got lost in storms, they got blown there. The probability to having been blown from Tahiti to Hawaii is 0. Next slide. 1968, Dr. Ben Finney called this man, Herb Kawainui Kane, native Hawaiian, arguably the giant in art in Hawaii, the giant, unprecedented. They had a phone call that would launch an idea. It would launch an idea by building a voyaging canoe and sailing it and rediscovering ourselves. Herb was an artist and he was an author. He was a researcher, and he put his vision on canvas. And he was the premier one that brought back the cultural identity of Native Hawaiians, because him and Ben Finney built a canoe. Next slide. This is an old slide. It's the day before the first canoe in 600 years would be launched. It's called Hokulea. Hoko means star. Lea means gladness. It's actually identified in the sky as a star Arcturus. And I happened to be here, just right place at the right time, on March 8, 1975. And I do want to say, when Hokulea was launched, it was the same time that the Monitor, the USS Monitor, the first designated marine sanctuary site, the first sanctuary. There are real parallels between our voyaging on our voyaging canoes and National Marine Sanctuary that I'll just talk to a few of them. Anyway, we make a long story short. Let me just say, without going into too much depth, we didn't know anything, nothing. I was there and trying to launch a canoe I had no idea. But the thing that was important was you had people who wanted to learn, but we needed a teacher. Next slide. Pialuk. They call him Mao. Mao's a nickname, means to be fierce. Herb did a lot of research in Polynesia. No navigators. They're all gone. We forgot who we were. But there was a handful of master navigators, the real master. That's why I say I'm not a master, because I'm not. But he is. From the island of Setawal in the Western Carolinas and Micronesia. Handful, masters. Magic men. And he was there that day. He arrived from Micronesia for the first time and was there at the launching, was in the crowd. I never met him. One of the 6 left masters on the earth, but the youngest. And I bring Mao into this room because Mao would be the single human being that would be needed, the only person on the planet could have done what he did. And his job was to get on a canoe that he's never seen. It's 8 times bigger than his sailing canoe. Sail with a crew that wasn't selected. And then go down a journey 6 times farther than he's ever done. Cross the equator and lose the North Star and pick up stars in the southern hemisphere he's never seen. And he agreed to go. Ultimately, it was compassion that drove that decision, because he knew what we didn't know, how much we don't know. And if he didn't come, he knew Hokulea would fail. And next slide. Go back one. Go ahead one. This is his island, Satawal. 1.25 miles long, 1/2 mile wide, highest soil is 8 feet. It was not, no one from the Spanish and the Germans and the Japanese and Americans were interested in this island because it had no military value because there's no lagoon. So the school of navigation was never broken. It's called Voyaging. Voyaging is the most powerful navigation school in the world, and he comes from the school. And I asked the elders there, how old is the canoe house? Because that's where they train. They said, we change the roof every 5 years. But I said, no, when was the first navigator? They said, maybe 3,000 to 4,000 years ago. Think about that. 1.5 miles, 600 people on an island that small and surviving for 4,000 years. This is our school. This is where we come from. It's where we pay respect. Next slide. Joel, it's going to be a long presentation. Is it broken? Oh, okay, awesome. Here's a map. Hawaii's up on the upper left. You can see Tahiti down in the center. Here's the imaginary coastline that leadership tried to figure out, crossing the 2 biggest consistent wind systems in the world. Northeast trade winds, southeast trade winds, they collide on the equator. A 300-mile band normally is the cloudiest and wettest place on the earth. The doldrums, intertropical convergence zone. Really hard to even see the sun in there. And so this is Mao's challenge, to hit an island that is smaller than the island of Maui in Hawaii. And it's like less than 1 degree on the compass if you're leaving Waikiki Beach. Challenging voyage. And next slide. This is Honolulu Bay, Maui, from where she left on May 1st, 1976, on the first voyage in 600 years. Next slide. And a crew of 17 on board, heavy. Again, not knowing anything, except the master was on board. Next slide. So they sailed down that road. There's a name for it, Kearai Kahiki, the pathway to Tahiti, and the pathway from Tahiti. It talks about this round trip kind of relationship between the family, Hawaii in the north, and Kaikinui in the center of Polynesia. 2,300 miles above open ocean, kind of like from Maine to San Francisco, open ocean. And 1 degree error. And this is a really important time because this is June 3rd, today, 50 years ago. And at astronomical twilight, Mao sees Tahiti in the darkness. That island is full of rain and green forest, black at night. And this sunrise was a whole new day of change. Next slide. Yeah, I was there. I was flown down, somehow got selected on the crew to take Hokulea home from Tahiti back to Hawaii. I'm small, Tahitians are big, and true story, I had to climb the monkey paw tree to see Hokulea come in. 17,000 Tahitians were there. That's more than half the population. And it was just a changing moment. These breakthroughs I talk about was when my life changed. Next slide. We came in and there were just so many children who jumped on Hokulea, and in English we were politely asking them to get off because there was kind of sinking the stern, and it kind of didn't work, and because this is their canoe. They maintain their first language. They have their orators that know of ancient voyages, ancient canoes, ancient navigators, but they didn't have the canoe that connects us. So when Hokulea came into Papeete Harbor that morning, it was a reconnection of family. And if you're looking at breakthroughs, everything changed in that day. All of a sudden, we're not isolated in the middle of the Pacific. We're connected to the biggest country in the world, Polynesia. This is family. Then the breakthrough was the learning process that came from being with these people that loved this canoe. And so when it came to Tahiti, it wasn't ours, it was theirs. And it began the reconnection process. It began many things, and some of it was immediate. In Hawaii, things changed. People started printing T-shirts and making bumper stickers saying, "I'm proud to be Hawaiian." You never saw that before. You started to see people ask the question, what's our place in our homeland? Education institutions, communities. And it started to question the leadership that was essentially denied us. It was a time that they call its Renaissance, and the Hawaiian Renaissance, but it was much larger than that because you didn't have to be Hawaiian to love your home. You don't have to be brown to say that you can touch Hokulea. Hokulea was everybody's canoe, and that was a major key element of leadership decision that allowed Hokulea to be something that everybody could be a part of. And there were but it took time for the Renaissance to take place, and I'm not going to go through all of it, but I will say that it took about a decade for two people to go to New Zealand and Aotearoa and talk to the language immersion schools. It took a woman from Kawanake up in Lake Champlain area in Sorel, where she was the first person to open the first language immersion. She was a retired nurse. She was with the church, and she opened the first immersion language school. So back then in the 80s, when this debate was, how come we don't have Hawaiian taught in schools? In the 80s, there was a survey done. And the survey tried to figure out how many fluent native Hawaiian speakers are there. The answer is less than 100. And they're all elderly. Extinction's real, and the cliff is close. Today, we're at about 300,000 students. Because Kawanake came and helped. Aotearoa, New Zealand came and helped. Tahiti came and helped and convinced leadership. Native Hawaiian language is first language in Hawaii. It is mandated in the public school for competence for graduation. It changed our private schools. Kamehameha Schools up to that point was trying to compete with the other private schools and figure out how we measure the competence of our children as how many get into Ivy League schools. Wrong. Kamehameha has shifted so that language competency, cultural competency are requirements for graduation. Things are changing. There's much changes in business, there's much changes in communities, but what the most profound change was what we teach our kids in schools. That's what I'm going to get at the end of this presentation. Teach them to take care of the earth. Help them to love it. Next slide. Mao saved us. We owe him everything, but we ask him for more. Come back, train us. It's 1978 to 2008, 30 years he came and trained us. That's why I'm a student. I'm privileged to speak about him because he's not here with us now. And so in that process, he helped us find our way, helped us create our own exploration, define ourselves. And he demanded discipline, and he demanded courage. Next slide. And we've sailed far. We've gone around the world. We've sailed extensively in Polynesia and the Pacific with the idea that we're going to connect, we're going to restore, we're going to re-educate, we're going to redefine us as a voyaging people. But the big question was, what's your contribution? Not in the isolation. If it's just a native issue, it ain't enough. What's your gift? What's your gift? And that was a question that was placed to us. Next slide. Yeah, I mean, this is part of the Polynesian Triangle. Polynesia, we did 17 different voyages in the last 50 years, along with you folks, launching 22 sites, national marine sanctuaries, protecting what you love. And our paths are parallel, going to the same place, the island of the future. Is it going to be cared for? Next slide. And then in this voyage, we did sail around the world. It was, 37,000 miles. It took 37 months, 18 countries, because we had to go. And there's a reason for that. We had to go because there's a reason for that. Next slide. And in that trip, we came here. It was kind of an interesting day. We had to keep putting the mast down, the sail down, and go through your bridges, put them back up. And it took us the whole day to go like 5 miles. And but then it was just extraordinary to be here. Next slide. The second teacher, Starman. Kekioko Aina, Ku'aina, he stands on the land of Hawaii, born and raised there. Lieutenant Colonel Lacey Veach, my hero. And we don't have time about the story, but he profoundly changed my life. And he set the course and shifted the Polynesian Voyaging Society. Because of kuleana, because of responsibility, what are you supposed to take care of? Starman. He would say, yeah, Nainoa, I go on the shuttle so I can go really fast and kind of defy gravity for a little while, and then look back at the whole Earth and to understand how its systems work, because we can't protect it without understanding those systems. Next slide. He was in a shuttle program in the 90s. And next slide. He loved Okolea. He did a speech in Hawaii, standing ovation. I was there. I snuck in such high security back in 1991 that I jumped over a fence, went in the back row. I wanted to see my hero, and he came in a big, giant 5-door white limousine that shouldn't be on the road. He had a white tuxedo and a bow tie, and he comes up to the podium, and he shows footage of Colombia and the Earth. Standing ovation, he leaves. I'm hanging in the wind. Nobody knew who I was, but I was in the wings of that auditorium. I want to see my hero, and he goes by me, and I thought, wow, that was awesome. At least I got to see him. And off he goes in his big limousine, and then thinking I'll never see him again. I bring this up because he profoundly changed my life. And off he goes, and I thought I'd never see him again. He's going back to NASA. And I get a phone call from the governor's office the next morning early. The governor doesn't know who I am. Nobody calls me from the governor's office. So I answer the phone. He goes, Lieutenant Colonel Lacey Veach wants to sail with you today. And I said, okay. So I went down to Pier 37, where we have old, kind of derelict pineapple storage building in Honolulu Harbor where we keep the canoe. And our crew is just like regular people, just kind of regular, average people. So I get there all excited because my heroes come in, and I tell them, I get them together and I go, okay, we're going to go training with the Starman, and then today, put on some slippers and a T-shirt, and can you speak your best English today? And because a limousine guy is coming, but he didn't. He came in his mother's rusted DeSoto. He gets out of the car, true story, barefoot, ripped shorts, no shirt, and the astronaut gets on the canoe, and we don't know, in that quiet, kind of uncomfortable moment where we don't know what to say to each other. We think we're so different. And he started to rub the railing, the wooden railing in Hokulea, and he just turned to us and just said, thank you, thank you, thank you. Today I'm going to understand what exploration really is. Thank you for bringing us on your vehicle, the spaceship of your ancestors. And that was it. My life changed. And all I said was, this guy is going to be a really good friend. And next slide. Yeah, he goes, Nainoa, I got a gift from you from space. And the next flight in the shuttle program, he hijacks and doesn't tell anybody to put a heavy, sharp object in zero gravity. And it came from that island, Moku, Hawaii, the big island of Hawaii. And if you can see, kind of on the center northern part of the island, there's a red dot on Mauna Kea, the Adskoi, Kianaka Ko'i. This is a stone that Hawaiians would carve up there, because second best stones for carving canoes. Huge deposits of their carving, and in temperatures every night below freezing. And so he said, Nainoa, I got a gift from you. And he floats the heavy object, takes a photograph, and said, this is the equation we need to protect the Earth. Well, look at your ads and go back 500 years to look at the sustainability genius of Native people. And then he said, power it with technology. So the window, this is Colombia, was the way that he would power it. We would look at the top technology. But he did say, main thing, somebody navigates technology, and that it's used for good reasons. But this is the way he was feeling. I started to understand there's a concern about him and the health of the Earth. Next slide. This day changed my life. We have our calendars out. We pick one day. Nobody can steal that time. I'll meet you in Hilo on the Big Island. We'll rent a car and illegally drive it up the slopes of Mauna Loa, the biggest mountain in the world from seafloor. And we would go on a lava rock where it was black, so it would absorb all light, get above the surface clouds, and bring the stars close. It was a time to think. It was a time to decide. It was a time to choose. What are we going to do in the next year? And his whole thrust was helping young people understand the power of exploration. And up here in Mauna Loa, next slide. Eventually in our trips there, it would always go back to the island. It would go back to the Earthrise. It would go back to the Earth. And then he would talk about how we're insulting it, how we're hurting it, how we're damaging it, how we're taking away the inheritance of our children. And then his language with me would get louder and louder. And then he'd talk about we can't protect what we don't understand. And we won't if we don't care. And then he said, you can't do it by yourself. That's why I'm here. National Marine Sanctuaries matters. Up in that, he would get so angry, and I'm a small guy, big guy, that it would affect him so emotionally and physically. I'd have to hold him to stop him from his rage about hurting the only island we have. Don't have another one. Next slide. Yeah, and he did say, he kept planting the seed of an idea, the voyage, because he knew the breakthroughs that would come from this voyage you can't even imagine. He kept planting the seed, take Hokulea around the island. Kept planting the seed, pushing me, because that's a very dangerous thing to do with a canoe 3 feet off the water. And he kept pushing me, But the seed was planted because of him. Worldwide Voyage, Moana Nui Akea, is because of him. Believe that we can be global. Next slide. The flight surgeon at NASA did not pick up the lymphomelanoma. By the time he did in 1995, he was stage 4. His wife calls me late September, get on a plane tonight. I fly to Houston, I go to his house. There are 100 people in there, dimly lit, quiet, strangers, I don't know who they are. No Lacey. And I go up to his wife, Alice, and goes, where's Lacey? And he's in the bedroom waiting for you. So I go into the bedroom, and there's a starman in a wheelchair, full of fluid, couldn't walk, and just started to tell me, hey, don't worry, Nainoa, I got this. I'm going to beat this. Don't worry. It's just temporary. This disease, the cancer. And but obviously he was very sick. But then he said, it was an amazing day. He said, I'm going to be okay, but make me 3 promises. I said, okay. He goes, number 1, you sail hokolea around the world. You sail around the only island we got. You connect with people and place. Because he would say that you can't protect what you don't understand. He brought it back up. You need to go around the world to understand its people and its systems. And then he said, and you can't do it by yourself. You need to make these connections. And you need to learn the earth, let hokolea touch the earth touch you, so that ultimately, in the end, education should be the thing that teaches about what we should love. Because when we love, we protect. Today, there's not an absence of science to talk about the world's challenges in the environment or the climate. There's no absence of science. It's more on the culture of humanity and will it be caring enough to change. He was touching on that in 1995. And then he said, pay attention to the new language you don't know, sustainability. Climate change wasn't even words back then. And then he started talking about all the other things that we're supposed to learn, hypoxia, all the dangers, understand it, listen to the language. And then he said, the third promise, he said, build a school for the earth, by the earth. Make the earth your school, build it. I said, okay. He goes, no, promise me. I said, okay. 6 days later, he died. He is the one that's supposed to be up at this lectern now, and not me, Starman, Hawaii's greatest explorer ever. We lose him, next slide. But we take his promise, his promises we made to leadership in Hawaii, the Voyaging leadership in all the islands, and we meet once a year, and we talk about just the power of the vision, of the idea, of the voyage of the idea, the possible breakthroughs. And we all go, yeah, man, let's go. And then when someone goes, oh, what about the pirate? What about the typhoon? What about the mosquito? What about places you don't know at all? What about human violence? And when we go down the menu of reasons why to go, we voted 13 years no. Because it was too dangerous. But the language kept yelling at us about what we're doing to the earth and the urgency of time. So it was April 1st, 2008. We had a meeting, knowing the language, and the question before us wasn't whether we should go or not. We knew we needed to go because we're all concerned about our children. We knew we needed to go. But the question before us is, what's more dangerous? The pirate, the hurricane, the mosquito, disease, violence, or staying tied to the dock, being knowledgeable about the future lives of your children, and not going. So next slide. So we trained 6 years, hard. And we left, essentially headed west and came back home. Next slide. Yep, 37 months, 37,000 miles, many countries, connections, and we touched the earth. We just touched it. But what happened in the worldwide voyage, it didn't tell us what's our responsibility to the island. Next slide. Homecoming. This is what we're responsible for. Home. Hawaii, the Pacific, the earth. We're responsible for that. But how does the tiny canoe have the impact that it can change the direction of the world? It can't by itself. Next slide. This is where we're going in the next 50 years. Taking the 50 years foundation that we have now from Voyaging. Taking the values that we were taught, the disciplines, the principles, the beliefs that were taught by our teachers, setting that foundation, and we're getting ready to just sail to one island. Only one. It's not a physical island, it's the future island of our children. We are committed to be a part of the movement to care for the earth. Next slide. And I brought this slide up about the monitor. It has been so helpful to me to understand possibilities. The USS Monitor, the first designated site in the National Marine Sanctuaries, we sailed by it on the worldwide voyage. So we want to believe that we're privileged in its waters. Next slide. What was profound to me was the pieces from the Monitor that are being protected at the Mariners Museum. Being invited there and being there. Why is this important to me? Strangers, I don't know who they are. But there's something that you have this instinct over time is seeing love in their eyes. You don't even know who they are. But they're protecting something so special. And that's where it's clear to me that these are the kinds that helps me recognize that you're not alone. That our partnership with the National Marine Sanctuaries is sacred. It's important. Next slide. And we're all about, we're not modern scientists, we're all about, if you want the earth to be protected, train your children. Even if it means changing schools. Different schools. Lacey started with many others a whole movement. We call it Aina-based education, land-based education, Kai-based education, ocean-based education, food sovereignty. And I'm going to say this, and people will probably throw me out on the road for this, but I believe that, been my minimum travels around the world, that Hawaii is exploding on community-based education. You guys need to come and see it. And because they know, parents and community leaders, schools know, you gotta train the children right, and it begins with inspiration. Inspiration that leads to love of home and love of family. Next slide. And what we need is a whole, and we have a chance to be what I would argue is the greatest time in human history, needing the greatest explorers. We've explored many, many places, bottom of the ocean, top of mountains. But now the explorers of the 21st century are the ones that are going to be able to figure out, crack the code, heal the earth. Because they love it. We need to teach children how to love something. And I know that. Hokolea taught me, love the ocean, love the earth. That's why education is our primary pathway to impact. Next slide. Mao. My first voyage in 1980, he trained me for 28 months every day, and he saw his pupil failing the final exam? Me. He saw me start to crash because there's a disease within Native Hawaiians. It's called shame. We've been taught to be that way, and that we succeed less and fail more. Failure was my great fear. We were in Hilo. It rained 5 days, leaving for Tahiti. I was going to navigate it, and I didn't want the rain to stop. I was scared that I'm going to go in this canoe. I'm not afraid of the ocean, but I'm afraid I'm going to fail. I'm a private person. And Ma was really angry. And he invested so much. And we were walking on the sidewalk in Hilo, pouring rain, and the rain was dripping down his face, and he just stops me on the sidewalk. He goes, "Nainoa, we're going. This rain stops, we're going." Because he was afraid that I was going to back out. And it was his intuition that fear was governing me. No vision, no values, fear. And he goes, when we go outside, you're going to go in the storm. When the storm come up, you get up, you put on your jacket, you face the wind. You stand there till the good wind comes back. Put on your jacket in the rain. And he goes, and you do one thing. Never let your crew know that you're scared. And then he said, the fear I worry about in you is not the storm on the oceans. He says, you're trained for that. Humility, respect, pay attention. You'll be okay. The fear in you is the one that's inside of you. It's the storm inside of you. That is fear. That's doubt. That's questioning your teacher, questioning your ancestors. It was all of that. And he said, you put on the jacket, and that jacket reminds yourself of why you're there. And so we did go, and we didn't die. Next slide. But that particular side, why I bring it up, he was the one, and Lacey combined in different stories said, you need to make sure you test your children. You need to train them. You need to make them strong. And the strength that Lacey was talking about, because we're in a world that's every single signal we send out to our children, broken, divided, split, war, unsustainable, unsecure future. It's all the storms of fear that we're giving to our children. And Lacey would say, you gotta make them strong. And the way you do that is to make sure they're educated and they take their imagination and their beliefs. Make sure they're connected to many of the other people in the world. Make sure that they are understanding that they're part of the greatest moment in human history in terms of exploration and discovery. The movement on the planet of millions of strangers that are all doing what they can in their backyard, in their rainforest, in the worst of our slums, in the hallways of our universities. Millions of people that even though they're divided are coming together to one thing, protect our children's future by protecting the earth. That was Lacey. Make them strong so that they're better than us, my generation. And next slide. Yeah, I know I spent too much time, but I did want you to take one thing home, the power of teachers, power of our schools. The schools that teach values and principles and purpose. National Marine Sanctuaries that's our school for us. Parallel Paths, Hokulea. National Marine Sanctuaries has this chance to come together and not save the world, but be a part of that movement of the goodness of mankind. That will be touch point, the nerve of touching love. If we can make children love the earth. they'll protect it. Touching the nerve is more powerful than any other emotion, especially fear. So for that reason, I just want to thank Joel. I want to thank National Marine Sanctuaries for the 14 years that we've known you. I want to thank about your eyes of love and your care. And I want to thank everybody in this room for being here to give me the opportunity to bring my teachers into this room. And we are, in the Voyaging family, very grateful. I don't know you, strangers, but I do know you are good work, and I do know you're willing to launch something that's good for the whole movement of humanity and the future tomorrow. Mahalo.
Ele kahiki e, ele e kahiki moe, peleleu I ele ku, peleleu I ele moe, paana hoku kau I kalewa, o ke au miki, o ke au ka, o kane wahilani, o kane kapuahi o. Lana lana o ama ka holo o akea, ua ku ka pou ua e I ka pea. Lei ia ka ea ehu o nā ale. Ki au, e o. Ko au. E o, hui pū, nā leo, o moana nui a keia. Hei noa no, o nā kilo hoku, o Nainoa. E o, mahalo.
I think we should just sit with that for a second. Thank you, Nainoa Thompson, for sharing your experience, your journey, providing us with the bridge to do our work. I also want to thank Pili Kahoʻohalahala for his chant in honor of Nainoa Thompson. Okay, friends, we're a little behind, and about 15 minutes or so, but that's okay. We're going to start the next session at about 11:15, so that just gives a very, very short window for us to gather ourselves and then get into the next session. So we will start this next session at 11:15. Take a quick pause, get our next plenary together, our next set of panelists, and we will see you then. Thank you.